Hello, DM Geezer Jim here. We are finally going to finish this sucker up. Reading Uncaged Faces of Sigil, the last section. This is going to be a little bit more lengthy because it is the appendix. As normal, we're just going to read through what's here on the pages, word for word, line by line, just like an audiobook would be. And at the end of the video, we'll offer up some commentary. But before we start, this is going to include a few more minor non-player characters. As well as kind of providing some connections between the non-player characters, the people we've talked about in the book so far, how they connect with each other, both as antagonists and protagonists, allies, enemies, all that kind of thing. So this is a pretty thick section, but yay, let's get to it, man. All right, an appendix. The characters, groups, and places described in Uncaged Faces of Sigil barely scratch the grime of the city. With all its portals, the cage is a gathering place for plane hoppers from all walks of life, death, and everything in between. Dungeon masters running adventures or campaigns in Sigil, or even those who whisk their player characters to the cage for a brief visit, should feel free to populate their games with anyone and anything short of the gods themselves. The Lady of Pain bars powers from the city. The next few pages present a further smattering of individuals and groups that might be found in Sigil, though they could show up in the most other Planescape settings just as easily. Naturally, they're not as detailed as the characters on the preceding pages, but they should give Dungeon Masters a few more ideas for keeping their adventures in Sigil fresh. The first one up is Layrus Arn. Layrus Arn is a tiefling used to fritter away time playing portal games with the other kids in the other street kids in the hive, counting how many primes they could trick through a portal in the abyss and the like. And Layrus was always slippery enough to win the most day's contest. Of course, all that changed when the Grixit used planar words to shut down a portal to Gehenna, unaware that Layrus was straddling the open doorway. The young tiefling got sliced in two from head to toe, but he was too feisty to die. The right half of his body still kicks around in the hive. A silvery wall seals off his innards from view, while the left half's marooned on Gehenna, and neither part is able to use portals anymore. Since the half of him in his sigil knows everything the other half knows, cross-traders pay Layrus to spy on happenings in the lower planes. Now the tiefling wants for nothing. Still deep inside his black heart, he knows he'd rather be whole again, and he'd do anything for a blood who might be able to help him. Brought the Mad. The Hall of Information in the Clerk's Ward is a great place for a cutter to learn what he needs to know about the government resources and private businesses in Sigil. And all he's got to do is get past the steward, a Burt called Brought the Mad, a barrier. Brought's not barmy mad, he's just mad. Fact is, he seems monumentally ill-suited for his job, seeing as he's the one who sits behind the black marble desk in the foyer and handles the knowledge seekers that come streaming into the hall all day long. Before a body gets to meet with an official and ask questions, he's got to make an appointment with Brought and pay the barrier the appropriate fee. But Brought seems to take hello as a mild annoyance and anything else as a personal attack. The Mercy Killer guards that roam the hall make sure no one starts any trouble, but it is soddingly frustrating, not to mention infuriating, to put up with Brought's complaints and abuses long enough to get an appointment. Some folks have said Brought's mad because he's deaf in one ear, the result of too much brawling back on Yizgard, and the fact he often records appointments for the wrong time or with the wrong official lends weight to that idea. Pointing out such mistakes only makes Brought madder. The next one up is Foskir. Lately, the face of Gith, the quiet Gith Zerai pub in the lower ward, has been beset by Rakma bands of young, eager Gith warriors bent on hunting Illithids across the plains. One group, led by a multiply pierced cutter named Foskir, a Gith Zerai fighter, think he's tumbled onto the dark of riding Elsensine, the hated godbrain of the Illithids, into the dead book at last. Faxir bought a black mark copy of notes from Bilfar the Diviner, a murdered mage who theorized that cranium rats, the plague of the plains, are actually the spying eyes of Elsensine itself. Foskir and her 8 Burks plan to haunt the cage, catching and killing every cranium rat they see. But the super intelligent pack of rats known as the Us takes issue with Foskir's plans, and they've charged their servant Parak with doing whatever is necessary to redirect her group or put her down. Umbor, Fang, Fur, and Rage. That's about captures the spirit of Umbor, a lion man, a basher from the Beastlands who's come to Sigil to take out his fury on all those who subject beasts to cruelty or exploitation. Embor is part of a growing movement in Kurgala, loosely associated with the Verdant Guild, though it's denied by all involved, to strike out against nature's enemies across the plains in the name of animal rights. And Embor, an upright humanoid lion, think Leonin for 5e terms, stalks Sigil by night, looking for Burks clothed in furs or shopkeepers who sell skins, trophy heads, and materials made from beast parts. He's hit the underground shop parts and pieces more than once, threatening Sima Santosensus with a slow rending if the method doesn't quit profiting from the death of living beings. Fact is, Embor killed the first proprietor of the shop, a Rudderkin named Nurks who sold animals as meat. Embor won't assault a body on the street, but he'll make it his business to launch a campaign of harassment against any sod he doesn't like. And he can always find plenty of reasons if given half the chance. Next up is P-Cad Peedle. Gamblers who bet on the spins at Fortune Wheel don't know that the game's rigged. Oh, the wheel's operator seems sedate enough, he'll even tell folks he's a governor. But P-Cad Peedle is really a member of the Mathematicians, a sect of number crunchers out on Mechanus. And he knows the laws of probability so well that he can make the spinning wheel stop on any square he wants just by how he sets it turning. Every now and again, he fixes a spin so that Verdun, who runs the fancy inn above the tavern, walks off with a magical prize. See, the pub's owners pay Peedle well to work the wheel and to stop lucky Burks and cheaters from winning too much jink. But he's come to Sigil to find loopholes in the city's physical laws, hoping to hit on a formula that'll give him control of its portals. His mission means he's got to earn a little extra on his side, and so he's glad to fix the wheel for a friend for the right price. Sister Cade. If a body in Sigil loses an item, a dagger, a shoe, a sack of silver pieces, he just might find it gathering dust in the High-Vord church run by Sister Cade. Perhaps it's because of her faction allegiance, but she always seems to end up with stuff that other folks lose. She claims not to know how it happens, saying only that every time she checks the lost and found of her temple, she finds 3 or 4 things that weren't there that morning. But plenty of Puri folk in the cage scoff at her sweet smiles, convinced that the priestess must steal the objects or hire Purlers to do the dirty work for her. They say she does it to lure the gullible to her temple, where she can try to convert the sods to her brand of worship. But Sister Cade can't seem to stick with any particular power for more than a fortnight. At last count, she's worshipped 39 different deities. She gets bored easily and switches gods to try to keep her faith fresh. That's why she's a perpetual acolyte. What else can a Burke expect from a dyed-in-the-wool Zousatect? Stone and Cog. Question, what do a Githyanki deserter, a centaur ant, and a bubber from the Outlands have in common? Answer, Stone and Cog, an outfit that designs, constructs, and renovates all manner of buildings in the cage. It all started when a powerful Githyanki warrior named Cha decided to throw over her calling and become one of the Malar, a literal architect of magic, a blood who thinks up and puts up cases, kips, and other structures. Cha came to Sigil and fell in with Phyton, a Formorian, an ant person, a horse-sized centaur ant whose claws helped create some of the finest bugbergs on Arcadia. Before long, the two of them found Sken Leafwood, a half-elf, the ale-loving craftsman behind the Dipping Dragon Inn, and many other cog-built pubs at Swivel and Pivot. Together, the three formed Stone and Cog, and thanks to canny promotions from Harris Hatches, they're always at work. Most every inch of space has already been used in Sigil, but S&C raise abandoned kips and build solid new towers on the lots. And when windbags at the Hall of Speakers get on an urban renewal kick, S&C head into the Hive, especially the Slags. The fact is, the trio's been in the Hive a lot lately, building small but sturdy cases for adventurers tired of paying tourist price at the city's inns. Thelinagra. Thelinagra is a Gith Zerai. She is never the same cutter twice. She teaches the art of chaos shaping at her studio in the lower ward, where she forms statues out of chaos matter and even makes custom weapons out of Karach, a transmuting metal. But a canny student will notice that her looks change slightly from lesson to lesson. Her head gets more oval than square, her nose grows from bulbous to pointed, and so on. That's because she's really a petitioner of Limbo, the spirit of a master anarch who got suckered through a gate to Sigil. She shaped a body for herself out of blobs of chaos stuff, but even her disciplined force of will can't maintain its form perfectly 24 hours a day. She's set on sticking around the cage, though, and sharing the dark of chaos shaping with any who care to learn. Bashers who take up the art will find they can bring up some chaos stuff along on adventures and mentally shape the lump into whatever item is needed, from a hammer to a rope to a spear. Whip Wildfang. Whip Wildfang, halfling, has a lot to prove. A few years ago, he and his adventuring party left the prime material planes behind for good, intent on making a name for themselves on the plains. But Whip felt his short size, he barely reaches 3 feet, held him back. He tried to tip the scales by falling in with the only cutters who offered him power, authority, and respect, the Harmonium. The faction trained him and set him loose on the streets of Sigil. Now Whip struts through the ward like he's 10 feet tall, looking for berks who break the law so he can chew them out or march them down to the city court. Ironically, Whip puts up with even less than most hardheads. A single misstep or word of backtalk evokes a spattering of curses and threats from the emboldened halfling. And he leaps into battle without hesitation, confident that the might of his faction will see him through. That or the other half dozen hardheads who are sure to arrive on the scene. The next section is just quick little, even shorter little entries on NPCs. Chins Peter is a tiefling, and the proprietor of Chins Peter is a shop in the market ward that buys and sells durable secondhand clothing, headgear, and footwear. The terminally somber students of the last school of vivid unpleasantness, including Morven and Phineas, haunt the dusty shop day and night. Konk, a chiton, a violent chain-wrapped chiton, works as an executioner in Petitioner's Square, chain devil. Long, cold chains shoot out from his body to string Burks up by the neck, and the mercy killers love him. Opak the Fawning is a Githzerai who owns a history and propaganda museum in the Clerk's Ward dedicated to Sigil's factals, present and former. Opak receives funds from every faction but the Free League and the Anarchists, who condemn his displays. Cetus is a tiefling, a young boy hired to ring bells on the street corners and announce news, merchant discounts, and executions. He'll often lead interested folks right to the source of the chant. He always on call for Harris Hatches. Elia Remy, a female elf, a hive artist, creates public sculptures banned by the Harmonium out of found objects. Bones, rusty iron, scraps of clothing, dead rats, and so on. Of course, often she finds her materials before they've been lost. Tusa, a barrier, tends a greenhouse secluded in a rich lord's yard in the ladies' ward where she grows herbs, flowers, and plants for teas, medicine, gate keys, and so on. It's one of the only fresh patches of green growing stuff in all of smoggy Sigil. And the ties that bind is our next section. Okay, we're going to zoom in a bit because the print. This section is kind of going to give you a who's where, who knows who doesn't know who likes who, and who doesn't. Kind of a summary of everything we looked at. So the ties that bind: NPCs who run establishments. Akin runs the Friendly Feed, a magic shop. Kesto Bright Eyes runs the Parted Veil bookshop. Fell runs a mobile tattoo shop where goes wherever he is. Iarmid runs the other place, the spa across the street from the Great Gymnasium. Eluvius Ruskin, Tivum's Antiquities, a gate key shop and a large magic item shop outside the market. Sima Xanthus Zenus, Parts and Pieces, the animal parts shop, the butcher shop. Verdun runs the Azure Iris, the inn above Fortune's Wheel. NPCs who provide services. Autocon the Bellringer runs a courier service. Black Marion tells fortunes. Woolly Cupgrass tests and sells liquids, an alchemist, if you will. Dejek Nalar sells maps of the ladies' mazes. Adamok Ebon hunts and leads safari expeditions. Estevan arranges trades. The Grixit sells current portal maps. Harris Hatches creates advertising and promotions. Kylie provides courier and tout services. Lysandra the Gatekeeper, she knows portal locations and keys to get through them. Mylori can translate any language. Parak the Rat Catcher removes cranium rats. The Rule of Three may provide information. Shemeshka the Marauder does provide information for a price. Sly Nye defends the accused in court, and Zadara might be funding new adventurers. The Blood War plot. This section of the book is going to kind of start tying in some of the. If you've listened to the whole series, if you've been along with us for all 40-something episodes here, you had seen some of the names and some of the non-player characters kind of repeating in other people's stories. There are some connections, and this just kind of sums them up for us. So the Blood War plot. Cerilli, Koei, and Tripicus supply both sides of the war with arms so that the fiends will continue to kill each other off. Koei works with Estevan, who arranges delivery of the shipments to the lower plains. The group is partially funded by Zadara, who wants to fuel the war so she can profit from arms sales. Kylie jeopardized the secret operation. She stole a message from the Koei to Tripicus, so now they use Black Marion to deliver their messages in secret song code. The rule of three wants to end the war so all fiends can band together against the rest of the planes. He works behind the scenes to put an end to the fighting. Gemaril the Exile wants to maintain the balance in the war. He helps or hinders Koei's arms deals when he feels it necessary. So you have Koei, Tripicus, and Cerilli in the middle of the plot here. I'm going to zoom in just a wee bit more here. Estevan and Gemaril help them on the outside of it. Zadar is a supporter. The rule of three is the opponent, and then you have the messengers. Just kind of showing a very visual representation of the connections between the NPCs. The Dead Gods plot. The Will of the One, a splinter group of the Sign of the One faction, wants to resurrect Eoskar, the dead god of portals, by channeling his essence into Omat, a Linqua. Fel, who is a proxy of Eoskar, is a symbol for their movement. Priscine, the leader of the Will of the One, hires Adamok Ebon to make predictions of the Barmy Briar Terrorwolf come true, mainly unimagining people. Kesto Bright Eyes summoned the Gautier Sar to Sigil to promote the Aethar cause, but Factal Terrence wants to use Sar to stop their signers from reviving Eoskar. Meanwhile, Pharaoh, in the personality of Sylvester Goldwax, spies on the Will of the One for Shemeshka the Marauder. A little bit of a plot there. The Ties That Bind, the Dustman contract plot. Verden signed the contract promising her future corpse to the dead, then cheated death by becoming a prolonger. Now the Dustmen want their due, so Kada is trying to drag Verden into court before Judge Gabberslug, where Sly Nye might defend her. Kada also has Sar closing in on Verden. The Mind Trappers plot. Tarholt sells gem for the Dwarven Mountains to Kada, who then gives them to Lykrich. The Shadow Fiend then traps Sods into gems and trades them for gems from the other Shadow Fiends of the Grey Wastes. It sells the new gems to Eluvius Ruskin, who's looking for the trapped spirit of a powerful mage. Shemeshka's Web, and this is a little bit of a big one here. Shemeshka the Marauder spies on factions, including the Signer Splinter Group, the Will of the One, through many means, but particularly Pharaoh, whose multiple personalities make him the perfect instrument. She occasionally uses Adamok Ebon as a hired killer. She manipulates Otokon the Bellringer through a devious plot of her own devising, and aside from being bound to her services, he watches over the tiefling Kylie at Shemeshka's bidding. She'd also love to get her paws on Kata's Mimir and sends thieves after the Asimir for that purpose. Her main business rivals are Estevan and Zadara, though she also holds great enmity towards Akin for reasons unknown, and towards Zedeus since that Garolith seeks to discover her secrets. Unknown to Shemeshka, her most seemingly loyal groomer guard, Colcook, is really Gemaril the Exile, who passes on information to Zedeus and to Rule of Three. So even though, what a tangled web that Arcanandaloth weaves, right? And, we have Big Wigs with Jink. Remember we talked about the money. Zadara, Estevan, Shemeshka. These are the three main financiers in Sigil. Zadara funds Jejek Nalar, Koei, Lysandra, Zedeus, and Yellum. She opposes Estevan and Shemeshka the Marauder. Estevan transports goods for Akin, Kesto Bright Eyes, Koei, Eluvius Ruskins, Will of the One, Zedeus. He opposes Shemeshka and Tarholt and Zadara. Shemeshka the Marauder employs Otokon, Adamok Ebon, Feral, Gemaril the Exile, and lots of thieves to steal Kata's Mimir. She protects Kylie, she opposes Akin, Estevan, Zedeus, and Zadara, and she's currently spied on by Rule of Three in Zedeus. And then we have the big old index, and that's it, man. That's it. We are done with this book. So, the appendix is pretty useful. Not necessarily the extra non-player characters that they threw in, but the opportunity to see how some of these plots work together. Having a summary of all the information we've had in 1 or 2 pages to be able to, oh, that's right, I'm running this plot. I need access to these NPCs. Oh, that's right, they like this NPC, which is going to put them against that NPC later. All the information in the appendix can find. You'll find it very useful if you delve deeply into Sigil-based campaigns, or if your players are even if not running a campaign within Sigil, if they're just passing through, a lot of the information in the appendix will be useful. So my ultimate recommendation as we finish this series up is I hope you get a copy of this book if you're into Planescape. Hopefully you've enjoyed this series and it's got you interested in Planescape and Sigil. But I definitely recommend, if you are running Planescape, that you have a copy of this in your library. You can pick it up legally through RPG, not RPG, that's where I work. Drive through RPG Drive through, DM's Guild, a few places like that. You can pick up legal copies. I'm sure some of you more talented people know where to find copies on your own. Although I do not promote piracy, I'll leave it there. But thank you for your time. This has been a fun read through. This is one of my favorite non-player character books. Hopefully you've enjoyed the stories and it's inspired you to take your campaigns to the outer planes. They're not as the idea of Planescape can be big. There's a lot of theology going on, a lot of concepts, a lot of big, huge personalities, and a lot of big open spaces. This book for me was really kind of a key point in helping me focus on specific plots instead of being overwhelmed by the everything and anything that is Planescape. So I'm a firm believer, if you get a copy of this book, you read through this, you keep it on access, your Planescape campaigns are going to feel more vibrant, they're going to feel more immersive, and they're not going to feel as impromptu and random. You'll always have a little bit of direction to go. You'll always have another personality put in the place to help redirect the groups on their missions. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed this series. Likes, follows, subscribes are appreciated. Join us over on Twitch. We're there 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find all those little bio things over here on the YouTube page that you're already on. If you feel compelled to do it, I would love to get a little bit of extra support. Join me over on Patreon. I've got a couple dozen maps and a couple adventures, a couple of things over there as a way of saying thank you and to my subscribers, my patrons, and we'll be adding stuff in the future. But more importantly, thank you for your time now. Thank you for following along with the series, and hopefully you'll catch us for join us for more projects in the future. Take care.